All right, we are live. Hey guys, how is everyone doing out there today? Let me know as always if you need more or less of anything. It sounds good in my ears, so let me know if I'm loud enough for you guys. So, how's everyone doing this week? It's been another busy week. This week, I'm going to kick the live stream off by saying if there are any technical problems, please bear with me because I've literally just installed a new graphics card in my PC. It's working right now, but you know, things could go wrong. It's been installed for about an hour now, so if the video is glitchy or whatever, you know, bear with me. But let me know if there's any issues on your end as well. So this week, again, another sort of chilled out week. We're going to just have a hangout and a chat, and yeah, I've got a couple of my favourite Octave Fuzz pedals with me as well, just to talk about those too, because I love Octave Fuzz, and I've been threatening to make a video for a while where I talk about all my favourite Octave Fuzzes, so I just thought, you know, maybe on a live stream that would be a good opportunity to hang with you guys and talk about them as well. So who have we got here? House of Maximus, hey, how's it going? Hey Dennis, good to see you here. Hello Leigh and everyone, hope all is well in your world today. Well, thank you very much Dennis, all is well in my world. And as I said, hopefully we're not going to get any technical problems. That's the only thing that could ruin my day today. Hey Neil, how's it going? Dennis looks and sounds good, and Holzer also says it sounds good, so that's good. That's a good start. So yeah, obviously keep me posted if there are any technical issues. And same for anyone watching over on Facebook, we're over there as well. So if there's any of you guys over there having any technical issues, let me know. So yeah, this week, as I said, I thought I'd talk about some Octave Fuzz pedals. I've got a few of my favourites in front of me here. Now, I did actually dig out one of my favourites, which is the Voodoo Labs Proctavia. And annoyingly, I can't find my reverse polarity adapter, so I can't actually play this one for you on the stream today. Out of all the Octave Fuzzes I own, this one needs a special adapter, so it runs off 9 volt, but it needs a special adapter to flip the polarity, and I can't for the life of me remember where I've put it. So I can hold this one and talk about it on this stream, but I can't play this one for you. But I've got a couple of my other favourites as well, so I think that'll make up for it. I thought it was on my desk, but apparently not. But this is a really cool one. If you're new to Octave Fuzz and you're looking for a good kind of entry point, the Voodoo Labs one is great because this is sort of based on the TUBEBUDDY Octavia, that real kind of Hendrixy sound. This is a pretty good solid one if you don't want anything too wacky. This is the first really good Octave Fuzz I ever got into. So the ones that we will be talking about today, I've got one of them plugged in, so let me just unplug it so I can show you. And that is going to be one that has kind of become a very, very firm favourite for me, which is the Beetronics Octahive. So this one, I love. This is probably, I don't want to have a favourite, but this is probably my favourite Octave Fuzz if I had to pick one, because you can flip the little switch on the side and it becomes a regular fuzz as well, which is just really cool. It's just sort of, you know, extra versatile. This is apparently one of the closest circuits to the TUBEBUDDY as well, so this one I really, really love. I've also got another Beetronics one, the Vespa. So this is one that I recently did a demo of on the channel, and also I gave one of these away in my 5k giveaway. This is a limited edition colour, so usually they're black. This is a green one. This is a little bit more synthy and a little bit more glitchy than the sort of typical TUBEBUDDY ones, but it's a very fun sound, and this also has a standard octave mode. And then I've got this one, which I recently just posted a demo on literally last week. This is from a new company to me that are based in Surrey in England, called Green Bear Effects, and this is the Lavaredo. This is his take on the Octave Fuzz. I don't think it's based on anything particular. I didn't really ask him if it was, but I don't think it is. This is a really cool one because it's an Octave Fuzz, but it has a boost, so you can kind of kick the Octave Fuzz into another gear. But what I really like about these guys is this is super sustainable. So all the parts, all the components are surplus, all the packaging that this thing comes in. I mean, all his boxes are recyclable. The instructions are all printed on recycled paper, so I'm really into that. That's a really cool idea for these guys. They're a sustainable fuzz company. So check these out. These are a brand new company. This is a really fun pedal. I'm really enjoying this one. And then this big thing. Some of you may recognize this. You may have seen this in a video or two. This is the Silver Machine by Jupiter Effects. And this is as crazy as it looks. This is an Octave Fuzz that, I can't remember the exact number, but there's 2 different gain stages in this. There's an input and an output gain. And Chris Jupiter that built this did explain this to me. I'm sure it's like 30 dB in and out, and you can cascade them into each other to get the fuzz, and then it's got the octave up as well. This is really cool because it actually rusts. This was actually silver when he gave it to me, and now it's starting to rust, and each one rusts slightly different. So over time this will rust even more, and no 2 of these will ever look alike because of the rust patterns. So that's really cool. It's very industrial looking. And this one doesn't have an LED on it because Chris always says you don't need one because you will know when this thing is switched on. So yeah, Octave Fuzz. So I'm going to plug the Octahive back in because that was already plugged in when we kicked off the stream. So do we have any fans of Octave Fuzz in here tonight? House of Maximus, the full tone Octave Fuzz. That's a really good one. I don't own one of those, but I've tried 1 or 2 and they're really great takes on the Octave Fuzz. I know a few guys who that was kind of their go-to for a long time as well. The Proctavia is kind of the same ballpark. Both of them are kind of chasing that Tycho Brahe Octavia thing. I don't know which one's closer, but they're both great pedals. And why is reverse polarity so common in fuzz? I don't know. It's really annoying though, because when I first got the Proctavia, I actually thought it was broke because I plugged it in and nothing happened. And then I realized, I did some research and realized, actually you need a reverse polarity adapter. So I had to go out and buy one of those, not knowing what it was. And the problem is all these other Octave Fuzzes don't need one, which is why I've misplaced the one that I have. Because that was on my pedal board for the longest time. And then I started finding some other ones that I really liked. So that one kind of got shelved for a long time. And as a result, I don't know where the adapter is. It's here somewhere, but I don't know exactly where. So I will find it eventually. Perfecto's here. Foz. Yeah, Perfecto. Perfecto's a bit of a fan of the Foz. How you doing, man? Good to see you. Neil, I've got a Prescription Electronics Experience Fuzz copy by B.G. Harding. Okay, cool. That sounds really interesting. I've not tried any of B.G. Harding's stuff. Not a brand I'm familiar with, but that sounds pretty cool. I'm guessing by Experience Fuzz we're sort of talking Hendrixy there. I'm guessing that's the sort of the vibe of that one. Based on the name, obviously, that's probably what they're going for. So, I've got a pink Strat today because Octave Fuzz always sounds good with a Strat. This is my Schecter Dick Johnston. This is going into the Blackstar Studio 10 6R6. The reverb you're hearing is this thing right here next to my finger. This is the Surfy Industries Surfy Bear Classic, which is a real spring reverb. And we're going through the Captor X as always. So the drive you're hearing is coming from the King of Tone. And yeah, we're just going to play around with some Octave Fuzzes. So if anyone's got any questions or things they want to know about Octave Fuzz, throw that in the chat as well. Claire over on YouTube just recently bought an Odin from Fjord Fuzz. Not done a lot with it yet, just brought it to replace a cheap eBay fuzz I had. Someone actually recommended Fjord Fuzz to me recently on Instagram, and they weren't a brand I was ever familiar with, but their stuff does look really cool. I've not personally tried any, but they do look really cool, so I would be interested in trying some at some point. What are people's choice of pickups with an Octave Fuzz? That's a really good question, Neil. Single coils, I think, give you more of the classic sound. So if I kick on the Octahive, to me, the classic Octave Fuzz sound is neck pickup with the volume quite low. It kind of goes into that slightly ring modulatory kind of thing, but it does sound really cool when you crank it as well. So if you're just playing with the volume completely open, I really like the sort of the clash of notes you get with an Octave Fuzz as well. It's really interesting because you do get that sort of very discordant thing if you play two notes at the same. It's not the most usable sound for everything, but it's a really fun sound for when you do want something just a little bit crazy. I have a Behringer Fuzz, don't know about the Octave Fuzz, or Behringer Fuzz. Regular fuzz is cool as well. I do like fuzz. I wasn't an effect that I was really into when I was younger, but sort of maybe like 5 or 6 years ago I just started trying some different fuzz pedals, and a friend of mine sold me a version of a fuzz face that was custom built for him, and he just didn't need it anymore, so he sold it to me, and that completely changed my mind about fuzz. That's the one thing I like about the Octahive, is on the side of it there's a little switch which disengages the octave circuit. So you can actually flip that switch. Obviously you can't see me doing this because it's on the table in front of me, but now it's in regular fuzz mode. So that to me is a really useful feature because I could literally take that one pedal and then it doubles as a fuzz and an octave fuzz, which is a bonus for me. They do actually do a custom shop version of that now with a foot switch. You can flip between them. I've just got the stock version where you have to actually flip the switch on the side, but you know, it's really useful. I rarely ever use fuzz and octave fuzz in the same song, so it kind of works okay for me. I'm happy to sort of flip that little switch, and it's really cool. The foot switch would be cool because you could actually go from one to the other, which would sound like this. So it's a really cool fuzz as well. The fuzz is really fat and kind of chewy sounding, which I like. It's sort of like a fuzz face, but it's not super boomy, because sometimes I find when I use fuzz face pedals live, you turn on the fuzz face and you just disappear from the mix because it's just so much low end. The Octahive doesn't really have that. The cool thing is it has this pre-control as well, so you can push the pre and keep the output volume down, so you're sort of hitting the circuit harder with the input signal, which gives you different sort of textures of fuzz as well. Like I've got that set about halfway now, but if I crank it, it's a completely different vibe. So yeah, ton of cool sounds in that. It's really vintage sounding, which I like as well. I do like the response of this thing. Like there, I actually had the gain or the pre-input. There's two different gain stages on this one. I had the pre up full, and I rolled back the volume, and it just kind of broke it into Octave Fuzz, which is quite nice as well. Literally bought it because it looked cool. Was planning to buy the Redbeard one before I saw the Fjord Fuzz. Redbeard is another brand that I've never tried, but I would like to try their stuff. A bunch of my other friends in this industry use Redbeard stuff and love it, but I just haven't personally had the chance to check his stuff out yet. But hopefully one day. Gary Clark Jr. gets a meaty fuzz tone with P90s. He does, and you've inspired me to try that now, so I'm going to grab a P90 guitar. So I think this is in tune. I haven't played it this week, but I'm pretty sure it's in tune. This is a really fun guitar. This is my Stanford Crossroads Thinline 30, which is completely hollow. So when you start playing this thing with gain, it goes a bit crazy. And this is kind of my Gary Clark Jr. guitar. He plays an Epiphone Casino. Oh, well, these days he's an SG guy, but you can hear how loud that is because it's hollow. He plays a Casino, which is completely hollow. This is like a 335 size body, but it is hollow as well. So let's fuzz it up. This might be quite a noisy guitar. That's also something I love about the Beetronics Octahive, is that it cleans up really well. So I'm actually stacking the fuzz side, not the octave side, into the King of Tone now, but I've just got the pickup volume rolled back. And that actually sort of functions as an overdrive, but then if you push the volume, we're straight into fuzz territory. So yeah, really cool. I love the Beetronics stuff. Those guys just build some really interesting pedals, I think. Play the Come Together. I'm guessing you mean the Gary Clark version. He does it slightly differently, doesn't he? I know the original version. I can't remember how he plays it, but I always remember the lick that he plays. How's that? That's about like, I know he does that in drop D as well, so there's something slightly different he does with the riff. But it's kind of that ballpark, isn't it? He still plays the same groove of the riff. Yeah, I mean, the tone is kind of... It's quite a simple tone in terms of Gary's signal chain. He doesn't really use a lot of stuff. A lot of it is the kind of the P90 thing, because not many players use P90s. People tend to go like humbucker or single coil, but the P90 is like the perfect middle ground. I'm going for the Black Star, which is a 6L6 amp. Gary uses a lot of Fender stuff, which again is 6L6, so it's that slightly scooped American clean sound with a fuzz in front of it. I'm pretty sure Gary uses the King of Tone as well. I may be wrong on that one, but I'm pretty sure he does. But again, fuzz into a sort of slightly scooped Fender amp, you get in that kind of ballpark, which is nice. And he's very dynamic with the volume control on the guitar as well. Because when the volume's on 10, obviously you're going full tilt there. But the good thing with P90s is you can roll them back. You you can almost get clean. So yeah, you can really get a lot of dynamic range from a set of P90s, which is really fun. They're probably pickups that I think everyone needs to experience at some point. Sounds great with P90s, it does. Yeah, I think Fuzz and P90s is just a great pairing. I just think it's one of those things that just sits so well together. The only thing with P90s is they're kind of hard to control when you play them live because, I mean, they're essentially single coils. They're just big single coils. This guitar especially is hard to control live because it's hollow. So even with the volume all the way down, I mean, this is essentially an acoustic guitar with P90s on the top of. So if you play this at stage volume with a fuzz, then you're in trouble. But that's kind of part of it. And that's also what Gary does a lot of as well, is he kind of controls those two things together. The unison of the screaming fuzzy amp with the hollow guitar. Really interesting. First thing I played with my fuzz was when my drain pulls in. That's such a cool riff. I love that riff. Again, it's that thing, isn't it? You get the fuzzy tone, but you roll it back slightly and you get the tone of that song. Yeah, very, very Gary Clark sound in this fuzz. Really great to pair with P90s as well, because you do get that sort of early Gary Clark vibe. So that's a really cool one. I'm going to swap fuzz now. So, that was a Beetronics one, so I'm going to go to something different now. I'm going to go to the Lavaretto by Green Bear. This is one, just did a demo of this last week on the channel. This is a really cool pedal. It doesn't sound like a takeover by Octavia. It just has its kind of own thing. I don't actually know what he based the circuit on. I need to ask him actually to... Maybe he did base it off an Octavia, but it sounds slightly different to my ears. So let's get this plugged in. So this one's cool because it has 3 controls: volume, drive and tone. The tone kind of acts as like a filter control. And it's got a boost as well, like I said, so you can... I've tangled myself up around my chair. The boost control allows you to hit the fuzz slightly harder, so you get a different gain stage. So, let's go. I didn't plug my power supply in correctly. That's with the boost on as well, so that's like super gainy straight away there. I've turned the boost off now. You can hear straight away with this one, this isn't as gainy. So the Beetronics Octahive has a lot more gain on tap. The gain is actually set 3/4 of the way up on this one. Where this one gets really gainy is when you actually kick the boost side in. But it's a completely different beast. It doesn't sound anything like the other one. Low gain side with the gain up full sounds like this. So it's kind of a bit more synthy. It's got a little bit more of a clean octave. The Octahive is very vintage and very retro sounding. It's just kind of straight into that retro rock kind of thing, which is great. The Lavaredo kind of feels a bit more modern, which I like. This would be a great recording Octave Fuzz because it's super clean sounding. Even with the gain up full, the signal is clean, so it actually tracks really nicely. I like this with the tone roll all the way back as well in the high gain mode because it kind of gets a bit woolly, but it's quite interesting. It's a very kind of filtery sort of sound, and if you sweep that tone control up, it kind of brings the full range back. I think the tone is definitely designed more as a filter on this pedal. So yeah, I swept the tone from 0 to full there. It's a very different beast altogether. That's why I like it. It's a bit more different. That one's more Hendrixy, had a great Hendrix wah built-in fuzz, and it was switchable between fuzz, wah, and fuzz. I think I know the one you mean. I think I've seen that one before. I can't remember who makes that. Is it Keeley? Is that one of the Keeley ones? No, it's the Monterey. It's like a blue one with red flowers on. Is that the one you had? Because that's a Hendrix inspired one that has the sort of the wah thing built in as well. Definitely a completely different sound. Yeah, that's the thing with Octave Fuzz. They all sound different. Everyone is kind of trying to capture the spirit of those Tiger Bray ones. The Octahive, I think, is probably the closest I've personally played. There's probably going to be people who have something else they say is also closer. The Chicago Iron ones that are currently out go for silly money, but those are apparently like 110% correct. For me, the Octahive is the closest I've gotten. The Voodoo Lab Proctavia is kind of in the ballpark. But then the Lavaredo is just different because that's a completely different beast altogether. This is more of like, it's the octave thing, but it's less of the gain, which is nice. It's a nice change if you don't want to add too much gain to your signal chain. The Lavaredo is a really cool one because it's not pushing too much gain into your existing drive stage, whereas the Octahive is a fuzz pedal at heart. You know, the Lavaredo, you can't switch the octave off. So that's a really fun one. Let's look at the Vespa now by Beetronics. That's a really cool one. That one actually took me by surprise a little bit because I thought I'd kind of sussed out the Beetronics thing. Oh, let me just show this one on camera actually. I thought I'd kind of sussed out the Beetronics thing, and this is a bit of a curveball because it's really simple. 2 knobs, they're not labelled. Oh, they are actually, they're labelled there, but you can't really see them. No, they're not actually, those are the modes. Yeah, the knobs aren't labelled, so I can't actually remember what they do, but it's like volume and sustain. I can't remember in which order. What caught me with this one was the switch-in. So this has a soft switch, and with this one, you can switch between a regular fuzz and an octave fuzz. The regular fuzz is kind of synthy and glitchy, kind of like a gated fuzz, and the Octave Fuzz is just crazy. But the soft switch, it took me a while to get used to, because you have to, I'm testing my memory here, you have to double tap to change mode. Single tap engages the pedal on and off. Double tap changes mode. You can also double tap to change mode while the pedal is off. So it's decided by the two lights at the top here. But also, if the pedal is off and you're in one mode, whichever mode you're in, you can hold the foot switch down and it temporarily engages that mode. And if the pedal's on and you're in one mode, you can also hold the foot switch down and it engages the other mode. So there's a ton of different switching things this one does. Even though it's the simplest looking out of the few of them, it can do the most in terms of switching options. So this one took me a while to get my head round, and I'm not convinced I even still understand it. But I like the way it sounds, so that's the main thing. So let's plug this one in. So this one obviously is a completely different beast again. This one is more synthy. I'm actually going to go back to my strap for this one. Because I think it's a little bit too extreme for the fully hollow body. It's a Dunlop one. Okay. I think I know the one you mean. Is it one of the Hendrix series? They did like a Hendrix series of pedals recently. I say recently, I'm talking like 3 years ago. Hey Crenal, how's it going? How do you use it with a pedal switcher? Yeah, as Crenal said, you don't really, because I mean, maybe it's something Beetronics could work out, because the guys at Beetronics actually do custom shop versions of everything. So maybe, I'm just guessing here, but maybe there's a way that they could design it so it would work with a switcher. As it currently stands, you couldn't use the different functionality with a switcher. It's just on or off. But, I mean, anything's possible, especially for the Beetronics guys. Those guys are geniuses of pedals. So yeah, this one's a bit different. It's currently on the regular mode, so fuzz. Nope, it's not even on yet. It's got so many lights on it, it always confuses me. Now it's on. If you actually listen to that fuzz tone, you can almost hear an octave fuzz, and the octave's not even engaged. It's just the way that the fuzz is kind of structured in this pedal. It almost verges on octave fuzz before you've even turned that on. I think, what have I got it now at the moment? Everything's just dimed at the moment. I think the fuzz is on 10. So I'll roll it back a bit so you can hear it. So this is that gated thing I was talking about. It's like super glitchy, which is really fun. I mean, for me, it's not an effect that I'd use all the time, but if you're looking for a glitchy sound for something, it does that quite well. If you actually sustain a note, you can kind of hear the gate clipping the fuzz off. It gets glitchier the more you hold it. It's a fun sound. It's not, like I said, it's not a sound I would use all the time, but it is fun. Right, let's get that over now to the octave mode. Right, so now it's the Octave Up Mode. You know when it's in that mode because the octave's really obvious. I actually find this one slightly harder to tame because it's very glitchy and it's very kind of erratic, but it is fun. I think this is just when you want an Octave Fuzz that just goes crazy, this is a good choice. What is really cool is the fact you can switch between the two modes. So if I put it back to normal mode, I'm just going to like play some notes and hold the foot switch and you'll hear it jumping into the Octave Up mode. That would be really cool to use on stage if you're sort of, you know, sustaining a note and you want to really make that note pop out. You could hold down the foot switch and it would engage the octave. And if you're playing, you know, at stage volume, you'd be able to get some really cool feedback. It also works when the pedal is off. So right now it's off and I've just got my drive tone. If I hold the pedal down, it will engage the fuzz, but only while I'm holding it. Back to regular gain. And the same is true if you put it in the Octave Up mode. I always get the timing for the double press wrong. It needs a very specific timing double press. Which, there we go, right. And now it'll go from regular drive to Octave Up Fuzz. So that's a really cool feature Beetronics added as well. I definitely think that's useful for gigs because you can sustain notes and you can do all kinds of crazy stuff. It would be good to use for feedback as well. The fuzz tones are a little bit out there for my personal taste. If I was going to use like an Octave Fuzz all the time, that's a little bit too extreme, but it's a really cool sound though. Basement Guitar Superstars here. Hey, how's it going, Dan? How are you? 2006 I bought it. Okay, well, I'm way off with that one then. I'm thinking of a different Hendrix pedal then. They did this Hendrix mini line. The sort of pedals are like this kind of size, and they were some Hendrix inspired ones, and they also did some regular MXR sized ones as well. Quicksilver's late again. You're never late. Always good to see you here. Krenar, confusion is not something I'd like a pedal to bring. But that tone, though, is worth the confusion. It is. It is a great tone. It's a bit glitchy for my taste to use all the time, but I do think it's a really cool tone. I think Beetronics nailed it with the Octahive, though. That, for me, is just what an Octave Fuzz should give you. It's everything and more. The Vespa's really cool, though, because it can do those kind of slightly more crazy out there sounds. Neil, love glitchy fuzz tones. Yeah, glitchy fuzz is fun. Like I said, it's not something I use all the time, but it is fun. Just when you want to go a bit crazy. A bit off topic, I need a Strat. What are you thinking I should check out? Oh, that's a good question. Are you thinking... I can throw this question back at you a little bit, Krenar. Are you looking for a Strat that's very vintage feeling? Because I know obviously you like older feeling guitars. Or are you looking for something a bit more modern? Reason I ask, because there's loads of cool variations out there. This is worth checking out, the Schecter Nick Johnston, but this is very much a modern Strat. So it's got like a 12-inch radius, stainless steel frets. Obviously it kind of does the vintage Strat sound of the pickups. The bridge pickup's slightly overwound, so it's a little bit kind of hotter and tighter than a regular Strat. It can do the vintage Strat sounds, but it's kind of a bit more modern feeling. Like, you know, we've got the roasted maple, we've got the sort of angled neck heel for the access, lock and tuners. It's kind of like a slightly more refined version of a Strat. I really like this for gigging because it's super versatile, and it handles a lot of things really well. Like, it can do Stratty, so if you're playing clean, and obviously you've got those kind of in-between positions, you can do that kind of quacky John Mayer-y thing. But then it takes gain pretty well, especially on the bridge pickup, because you've got a master tone. You can dial it back a bit. So it's kind of a catch-all tones Strat for me, this one. It's definitely a workhorse Strat, and they're pretty well priced as well. In the UK, they're like $7.50. I think in Europe they're about the same price. But yeah, these are cool. If you want vintage feeling, obviously you've got all the Fender ones in the same kind of price point. I'm just assuming that's the price point you want to hit, actually. And things like, you know, the Vintera range, which are like, I think in Europe probably €650. Those are great. Very vintage feeling. Very vintage, not big neck though. Okay. Another option would be, depending on budget, to go old school, early 80s Japanese Tokai Strats. This one is my favourite Strat, even though I gig more with the Schecter. This is my favourite Strat that I own, and this is, you'd probably like this one because it's vintage. It's based on a 63. It's pretty much Tokai's take on the 63 Strat. It's got the right kind of 60s neck profile. It's got the 7¼ inch radius, the super thin veneer fretboard, the really low thin frets. These are really cool. You can pick these up on eBay pretty cheap if you look at the early 80s ones. These are probably the, dare I say, maybe slightly better than Fender's take on the 60 Strat these days. Yeah, depending on budget though, these, you can pick these up for a pretty good price sometimes. If you want vintage, I definitely think something like this would be a good shout. Don't tease me with that NJ signature guitar. The only thing stopping me are the hollow dots. Yeah, I know what you mean. Because it looks, on camera, it kind of looks like there's no fret markers. But if you look closely, there are fret markers. They're just really, really small, hollow brass circles. Which is cool. It's fine for your perspective. You can actually see them better in person than you can on video. So I can see them really well, but they don't show up well on video. And that's one of the reasons I don't use this guitar too much when I do lesson-based videos, because people can't see the frets I'm playing, which is a shame because this is such a cool guitar. I love playing this one, but for anything else, it's incredible. So yeah, maybe try one out. If you get the chance to try one in person, try it, and I think you'll probably find the dots don't bother you as much as you think. I realised recently that I like thinner necks. I always thought I should like bigger necks. I know what you mean. I gravitate towards bigger necks, but it's weird because I prefer the feel of a guitar with a thicker neck. But if I gig with a guitar with a thicker neck, I get bored of playing it sooner, which is weird. This is, I'm not sure what the exact profile of this neck is. It's not super thin, but it's not fat at all. This is a really comfortable neck profile. Probably one of the most comfortable Strat style neck profiles I felt, actually. I probably wouldn't consider it to be too thin, but it's definitely not a fat neck. The Nick Johnson is tempting. In fact, you can find an old video of me butchering Nick's Remarkably Human. I'll have to check that video out. Now we're talking. That Tokai looks sweet. Yeah, the Tokai is great. You can pick them up for very little money sometimes. I picked that one up for like £350. Depending on when you look, eBay prices can fluctuate from like 300 up to about 1,000, but the sweet spot seems to be like 500-600 at the moment. But they're definitely really good guitars. They outperform the price point that they sort of sit in. I would rate one of those any day of the week over most other Strats. Early production Fender Roadworn 2008-2009. I've played them alongside vintage and custom shop, and they hold up. Now I can vouch for that one. Son of Man over there is a good friend of mine, George, who is actually going to be on one of the live streams very soon. We're going to be talking about his 60s Gibson SG and 60s Strat. So George is going to be on here very soon with me. He's got a couple of those Fender Roadworns, and they are absolutely incredible. His Telly's great, and his Roadworn Strat as well. So yeah, those are pretty good as well, Cronar, if you get the chance to check those out. How do you rate the vintage V9 Strats that look great? They look great. The V9, is good. I demoed the 25th anniversary Silver Burst one, which I think they called like the V59 or V62 or something like that. It had a different number name, but it's the same guitar. Yeah, great. Vintage are making some really good stuff. Good price point. They're sort of like 300-ish at the moment. If you're looking for a Strat that isn't super expensive, they're a pretty good entry point, I think. I love the made in Japan 80s twangers. I have a Fernandez made in Japan 60 Strat and a 59 Tele copy. Yeah, those Fernandez ones, all the Japanese stuff really is great from the 80s. My Tokai is 82 or 83, made in Japan. I think Japanese guitars, controversial topic, but sometimes they outperform American guitars, I think. I've played more Japanese guitars that I've loved than I have American guitars. I found a similar guitar, Schecter Route 66 in blue HSS, looks exactly like the NJ, but was abalone dots, and I dislike that too. I'm guessing you're a bit of a traditionalist then, in terms of what you want from your Strat spec. I've not heard of the Route 66, but Schecter are doing some really cool Strat style guitars. Obviously, the NJ is... This is the traditional one, which is 3 singles, and they do a HSS version of the same guitar. But Schecter have also, last year, brought out a series called the Nuys Series, which the idea behind is kind of a tip of the hat back to their 1980s sort of super Strat hot rod thing. But there's one of them which is called... I can't remember the name, but I did a demo of it. I mean, I'll show you actually. It's basically a HSS Strat, or the Van Nuys Traditional it's called. So let me just pull this up for you. And I've clicked the wrong one now. They do 2 of them. They do a Tele style one and a Strat style one. And there's my demo of it right there. I demoed both of them. The Van Nuys Traditional is the Strat style. So it's pretty plain. It's like a plain wood finish, but it's HSS. This is a really good alternative to a Strat as well. It's pretty much the same guitar as the Nick Johnston, but I think it's got slightly different pickups in it. But again, you know, it's a Strat. Probably similar vibe to the Route 66 that you're talking about. It's the same kind of thing. It's a HSS Strat with a couple of those little modern tweaks. Yeah, this is a really cool guitar. I really enjoyed demoing that one. It's really fun. Sounds great, plays great. Really interesting. And again, price point like just under £900. You can't really fault that. The hollow dots are my favourite thing about the guitar. I played a Schecter Super Strat and PMT a while back. The neck felt amazing, but I had a Floyd Rose, so I couldn't pull the trigger. The Floyd Rose is always a hit and miss thing with people. The first Schecter I actually demoed was about... Actually, it was I think it was a year ago today or a year ago yesterday when I first started working with them, was the Super Strat version of the guitar that I just showed you. It was the Sun Valley Super Shredder, I think they called it. And that was the same kind of vibe with a Floyd. I have a love-hate relationship with Floyd Roses. I hate them, but I'm drawn to them. I mean, it's because I love 80s things. I love everything about the 80s. The music, the aesthetic, the guitars. So even though I hate Floyd Rose tremolos, I love them at the same time because they're so 80s. So yeah, I get what you mean though. They are a pain. I wonder how much it would cost to get a tech to change the dots to regular clay dots or perled or whatever they are on regular Strats. I don't know. I'm not sure whether that would be an expensive job or not. There is a company though called Fretlook, and they make these really cool fretboard stickers which do look really good actually. They're some of the most realistic ones I've seen, and apparently they don't peel under the fingers. So maybe you could get one of these guitars and get some fret stickers, and that would save you a lot of money on getting someone to drill the neck anyway. Clay dots for the win. The only problem with clay dots is they dry out and fall out after a while, but they look cool though. They definitely keep that vintage vibe. Pretty Chapman ML1-ish. Yeah, it kind of is. The new ML1s look really cool. I don't think they're launched on their website yet, but Rob Chapman posted a video recently where he sort of showed some mock-ups of the new ML ones, and they're kind of going a bit more in that traditional route as well, which is interesting. That was the one. It was an exotic wood one. Yes, that's it. I remember now. I demoed the Zerakote one, which is like the darker one of the two. They did two exotic wood versions. I demoed the darker one, but it's the same guitar. There's just another one in another color as well. But yeah, really cool guitars. Schecter makes some great stuff. They were a brand that I always thought of as like a metal brand until I started trying some of their more 80s vibe stuff, and yeah, it just changed my mind completely then. But yeah, really cool stuff. I love Schecters. I think they're going to be a company to kind of keep an eye on in the next year or so. I think a lot of the brands are kind of going into this 80s rabbit hole now. That might not be for everyone, but I'm really excited about the fact that everything's turning 80s again. I need to dust off my chorus pedal next. So, the last Octave Fuzz. Just as Krenar says, back to Fuzz, show us that Jupiter Fuzz. The last one is this thing. This is the Silver Machine by Jupiter FX. This is an insanely cool Octave Fuzz. Like everything that Chris Jupiter makes, it's crazy. It doesn't have an LED because Chris says you don't need one because you'll know when this thing is on. And he's right, you'll know when this thing is on. I may be wrong, I did briefly mention this earlier, I may be wrong in this, but this is like 2 cascading gain stages, in and out, and I think each one is like, I want to say 30 dB, but knowing Chris it's something like 50, and you can basically like keep the output low and put like 30 dB into the output stage, and then you can add another 30 dB, and then I think this controls the gain. I can't really remember because Chris is really big on not labeling things because he likes you to listen to the pedal as well. So things aren't always necessarily labeled, so you don't always know what things do. So sometimes you just have to twist knobs and see what they do. So I'm going to plug this in. It's absolutely massive as well. Like, to give you context, if you take like a regular size pedal, you know, it's quite sizable. This is the sort of pedal that takes up a lot of real estate on your pedal board, but the tones more than make up for the space that it takes. So I actually can't even fit this on my desk pedal board properly. So I'm I'm using one of the Marcus Deluxe desk pedal boards, and this doesn't actually fit onto it properly because it's so tall. And for some reason, I can't get the 9-volt power in. So I think I've plugged this in. The 9-volt doesn't seem to go in properly today. So it's on. Anyway, it's there. So that works. So yeah, this one is crazy. So everything is set to midnight, and here's what it sounds like. I mean, that's a nuts sounding fuzz. I can't remember what things do, so I'm just going to turn up the big knob in the middle. I think that's the gain. Yeah, I think so. So now I'm just turning things and seeing what it does. I've just turned the input gain right down and the output gain right up. Now the reverse. So there's a lot of fuzz in that thing. That's a really fun one. You can hear as well that that's actually that's an intentional thing. Chris always has his pedals sort of with this really hot bias thing going on. So when you actually turn things, it actually crackles. Which probably isn't great if you're playing really loud on stage. But when you're tweaking, you don't tend to tweak things too much on stage. But yeah, it's just one of those little cool quirks that they do. Is it bigger than a Crybaby? It's about the same size, give or take. Actually, I don't know. Maybe actually it's a little bit bigger. I'm looking at it now. It might be wider than a Crybaby. It's the same size as those Tone Bender, the big sort of old 60s ones. Which, yeah, actually I think it might be slight. It's definitely wider than a Crybaby. It might be about the same lengthwise, but it is a big pedal. It makes you play different, and it is liberating. Yeah, you are right, because that's what I like about Chris's pedals, because they're kind of unpredictable, and you don't know where you're going to go sometimes. And that's quite fun, I think, because it kind of pushes you in a slightly different direction, because if you have tones that you're comfortable with, you'll always play great, because those are the tones that kind of inspire you. But sometimes it's nice to take a tone that takes you somewhere a bit different, and that's something Chris does really well, because his pedals are just so crazy, but there's always something really cool in them that you can find. He does a pedal called the Kaleidoscope, which I did a demo of about 2 years ago, and that was the first thing I ever tried of his, and it's basically like a reverb, which he said is based off, the exact description he gave me was it's based off a Fender Twin. So it's a very classic sounding reverb, but in the output stage he's built in a gain stage, so the more you turn the pedal up, the more the reverb tail distorts. So it's kind of like a reverb with like a gain stage, and he then described that as, if you set up, I'm trying to think of the exact thing he said to me, was if you set up a Fender Twin on top of a flight of stairs and you dial in the tone, and you love the tone, and then you kick the amp down the stairs. That's what he described it as, which is a very Chris Jupiter thing to say. Really cool though, it's inspiring, it's a different kind of reverb tone. It's not the sort of thing you leave on for the whole gig, even though I have actually done it that way. I've used it like as a really subtle spring reverb. It's the sort of thing is like, you use it as like a really textural thing. He recently sent me this thing as well, which is really cool. This is it says Catastrophe, but the German pronunciation is Katastrophe. I'm not doing that very much justice because my German isn't great, but this is like a distortion with an octave up as well. That kind of fits the bill of what we're talking about, actually. I haven't done the demo on this yet. It's not on the channel yet, but this is really fun. I'm going to plug this one in, actually, just because why not? We've got Chris's fuzzes going anyway, so let's do it. Let's go for the Catastrophe. So I've not actually spent a huge amount of time with this yet, so bear with me if the tones take a second to dial in. I've tried it a few times though, and I'm definitely liking it. Helps if I turn my tuner off. So this is actually interesting because it's a distortion pedal with an octave up. He said it's kind of like, it does get a bit tube screamery, so we can dial in some cool overdrive tones. So I'm going to set the gain quite low actually, which is sacrilege for a Jupiter pedal. And there's that octave up you can switch in. So that's actually really fun because it's not fuzz, it's like an overdrive with octave up. Gets kind of glitchy as well when you start rolling the volume back. That's a really fun pedal actually, I'm really into that. I was actually stacking the gain there. This is the overdrive side of the pedal on its own. I've got the gain super low there as well. I've got the gain on like 1. Obviously this thing's got a lot more gain in the tank. So that's a really interesting sound. It's not fuzz, but it's really cool though. That was the gain on max there with single coils. So that's actually really interesting because you can kind of do like the tube screamery kind of thing. And it has a low cut. So when you actually engage it, first of all, there's a lot of low end presence, which is nice for single coils because you can fatten them up. But then you can cut those lows away. Ah, Raphael's in the chat. How's it going? Good to see you here. The name is Schecter Traditional R66 Santa Monica HSS. I don't even see it on the Schecter website. Maybe it's a discontinued model. I'm going to Google it. Schecter, I forgot what you called it now. Schecter Traditional R66 Santa Monica. Let's find one of those. There's a couple of left-handed ones. Oh, there we go. There's a right-handed one right there. Yeah, so that's kind of the same vibe. Same price point as well. So $750. Yeah, that's pretty much right in the ballpark of what the Nick Johnston costs, what the Van Nuys costs. I don't know what year these are. I'm guessing they're an older model. If they're... Oh, 2020 it says there on the back of the headstock. I like the sparkle blue finish, that's a nice touch. That's a really nice looking guitar. I wonder why they're not available anymore. Oops. Ignore that, that was the wrong button for me to click. Yeah, I wonder why they're not on the Schecter website anymore. Those look really cool. I like those. That's the kind of thing that I'm really into. So I would really like that guitar. that would fit really well with my kind of preferred Strat style. I like having a humbucker in the bridge because I don't use the bridge single too much, even though this is a really good bridge single. I would prefer to have a humbucker there just for that kind of extra 5% versatility, but that's really nice. I like that thing. I remember playing the Catastrophe at 42 Gear Street. Now I need to get in touch with Chris. Do it. Drop him a message. Chris is such a cool guy. Chris just makes the most interesting pedals, and that's why I like his stuff, because I am not a high gain player by any stretch. I very rarely venture into the world of high gain. Even when I'm using humbuckers, I prefer stacked low gain rather than high gain. So I'd rather like stack 2 or 3 drives than crank the gain on a single one. But that's why I really like Chris's pedals, because they're just so different. Like, this thing is obviously designed, I mean, the pedal's called the Catastrophe Sludgefest Dominator. I mean, the name kind of tells you all you need to know, but when I get it, I'm playing this kind of stuff on it. Which is not really the sound of a Sludgefest Dominator, but it does that really well, which is cool. So yeah, I really like that in Chris's pedals, that they do make you play slightly different. It's just something that makes you sort of think outside the box a little bit more, which I'm always interested in, because it's very easy to just get stuck in the usual, you know, let's all use tube screamers, because we love those things because they sound the way they do, but it's so easy to sound like everyone else. And Chris makes products that are just interesting, I think. His stuff just makes you think slightly different about what you're doing and how you dial it in. I can hear some great Jimmy tone and even Stevie. Great playing. Thank you very much, Dennis. Yeah, it kind of does that. Again, it kind of does have a Tube Screamer vibe to it. The only difference is I've got the low cut turned up, but if I turn the low cut back off, you'll hear this actually has a lot more low end than a Tube Screamer, which actually makes it really useful for like single coils, for instance, with the bridge single coil. So it does have a really kind of fat low end to it, which is nice, that a Tube Screamer doesn't have. That's probably where you're getting the Stevie thing from. If we do those kind of in-between positions, the gain is super low, and I low cut some of the bottom end off, you do get that nice kind of quacky Stevie Ray Vaughan tone as well. So it does that as well, which is cool. And again, that's probably not a tone that Chris had in mind when he designed the pedal, but it can do it, which is really fun. So it's actually really versatile. And then obviously if you put like humbuckers with the gain absolutely tanked, then you kind of go into higher gain realms. Chris also said this pairs really well with a distorted amp. So if you're playing an amp that's already high gain, and then you put this thing into it, then obviously it kind of, you know, explodes, and then you really get into the Jupiter effects kind of sound. Can you engage the octave without the distortion? That's a really good question, and I'm going to answer that question by trying it because I can't remember. So that's clean. No, I think is the answer. No, unfortunately not. What you could do is probably set the gain on like nothing. It's clipping my sound a little bit, but you could probably dial the pedal in so it was on but didn't affect your tone, and then you could switch the octave in. And it doesn't play very well with chords, as Octave Fuzzes don't, which is really fun. You do get that kind of slightly ring modulator sort of thing going on. I hear that new Affinity Stratocaster with the one humbucker plays great. I haven't tried any of the new Affinity stuff, but the stuff I've tried from Squier in the last few years has been a huge step up from when I first started playing. So I think nowadays you could pick up a Squier and, you know, it's just as good as anything else. I know that Crenard had the Classic Vibe Telly for a while. Actually, still got that Telly, and that is like a €300 guitar, I think, and that's great. The Classic Vibe stuff that Squier are putting out is just insanely good value for money. The Affinity is obviously the series below that, but those have come a very long way, because the Affinities are now nearly double the price just from when I started. When I first started, they were like £100, and now they sort of sit at the sort of £200 mark. So they've definitely come a long way since, you know, what I remember them being. Even the Bullet ones, which are the absolute bottom line entry level ones, are great guitars. They need a little bit of TLC, because out the box they're not perfect, but the bones of them are good. You know, you can make it into a good guitar with a few simple tweaks, which is nice. So yeah, I really like that these days, that everything is kind of a good guitar now. There's not really any bad guitars anymore, which is quite nice. Because when I started, it was just, you know, if you didn't have the money to buy a really good guitar, it was so hard, because everything just played rubbish up to a certain point. You had to be able to spend a couple of £100 to get something half decent. But now you can go to a store and pick up like a Harley Benton for £200, or, you know, $200 or €200, and take it out and gig it. I've gigged my my Harley Benton Fusion 3, and this is like a €300 guitar. I've taken this out and gigged with it, and you know, it's really good. It's roasted maple neck, stainless steel frets, Wilkinson hardware, lock and tuners. I mean, this thing holds its own against anything in my collection, and it's a very, very inexpensive instrument. I can only imagine how much easier my kind of process of learning would have been if I had something like this available to me 20 years ago when I started. So yeah, people that are starting now is the best time ever for affordable guitars, because even if you get something like this, you know, this is great. You could literally take this out and gig it. Out the box, actually, this was spot on. In my opinion, I actually didn't change anything on this other than the strings. That was the only thing I did to this when I got it. The strings weren't very nice, so I put a set of Ernie Ball Ultra Slinkies on it, and that was it. I took it out and played it live, and the drummer I was actually on that gig with actually said this sounded better than my PRS, which I thought was quite funny, because I didn't tell him that this was an affordable guitar. I just asked him to tell me what he thought the sound was like, and he turned around to me and said the pink one sounded way better than the red one, and the red one being my PRS. And then I told him that this is like a €300 guitar, and he couldn't believe it. So yeah, people are spoilt for choice these days in terms of affordable instruments. I think now is the best time to buy cheap in the guitar world. The shades of pink are different. They are, yeah. That is, I can't remember what they call that one. There's a name for that colour, and this is called Atomic Coral. So this is a bit more of a vibrant sort of bright pink, whereas this is a bit more of a dark. I think they might actually call it dark pink. That might actually be the colour name. This is kind of based off the Charvel colour. That's the same. This is sort of like a sort of Harley Benton take on the Charvel. Is it the DK24? I think is the model. It's pretty much a DK24, but you know, not £850. It's like £300 instead. And yeah, the Nick Johnston one is a way more kind of vibrant, in your face pink. It's not like a neon pink, and in some lights it kind of looks a little bit orangey because it's coral, but you know, you can see that's definitely pink. But yeah, definitely different shades of pink there. I've got an Aria Strat type guitar, and my guitar teacher was shocked at how nice it is. Cost me £130 as an X demo, half the recommended retail price. It's a 60-star one. Aria are a great brand. There was a lot of people actually playing Aria basses in the 80s. Cliff Burton from Metallica played an Aria Pro 2 bass. I think Flea from the Chili Peppers played one. They were just sort of like the go-to bass for a lot of people. And again, super affordable. You could pick one up for like £200, and they're great. I mean, there's pro-level players that play the things. They did go through a bit of a phase where they were quite pricey because of the history. I mean, they've probably gone down in price now. Golden Era Age Strats look amazing. I think they're based in Ireland. Okay, that's a new brand for me. I've not seen that brand before. I'll have to check that one out. Golden Era Age Strats. I will Google those and add them to my list of brands to check out. Golden Age Era. I'm literally doing it right now, so I remember Age Strats. There we go. I will check those guys out. Okay, I mean, can you trust the drummer? Clearly a joke. Please don't cancel me. You can't trust drummers, Connor. That's why they're drummers. There's a reason they sit at the back of the stage, because they're not allowed to interact with other people. If I were to get one, I can't decide between the atomic green or atomic coral. That's the cool thing with the Nick Johnstons. They do have some really vibrant colours. The atomic green is cool. I quite like the light blue one. I think they called it atomic blue, but it wasn't really that atomic. It was more of like a sky blue sort of thing. But yeah, the coral for me was the winner. Just as soon as I saw this, I was like, yeah, I need a pink Strat, because it's a pink Strat. You know, I have Strats that look vintage and have the vintage aesthetic. So yeah, when the atomic coral one came up, it was like, yeah, that's the one. We've got to get a pink one. I refer to it as pink. It's coral technically. I've seen that brand on Instagram. They do some nice looking relic bodies. I'm going to check them out. Not a brand I've seen before, but I will, yeah, I'll check out what they do. The Nick Johnston one also comes, there's a newer one, which is like atomic orange. And I've actually seen it in the flesh at Gear Street last year, and it is as orange as you could imagine it being. It's like neon orange. It looks really cool if you like neon orange guitars. It's probably not the kind of colour I'd go for myself, but it is a cool colour. So they're definitely doing some interesting stuff with the colours. There's even an atomic black, which I haven't seen in person, but I'm pretty sure it's like a glitter black. I'm pretty sure there's like a subtle glitter flake to it. I could be way off the mark there, but the pictures I've seen of it kind of gives me that impression. Looks good though. Gotta go put the kids to bed. Catch you later. Well, thanks for stopping by. Good luck putting them to bed. Try not to wake them up when you plug the guitar in later on, because it's never too late to practice. It's always time to pick up the guitar and plug it in. But yeah, I definitely think interesting colour Strats are the way to go. I've done the vintage Strat thing. I've got a couple of nice older looking ones, and now I'm really into more vibrant ones. I would never have dreamed of getting a pink guitar, even like 3 years ago, but now I just seem to gravitate towards things that are slightly weird colours. I don't even know why, just think it's interesting. But yeah, these are really cool Strats, and these are obviously always a good talking point because a lot of people are interested in these things, and I do think people should try these. If you ever get a chance to try out one of the Schecter Nick Johnstons, 100% try it. Really great, really interesting, rock solid guitars. But yes, definitely do that. So, is there anyone else who's got any other Octave Fuzz questions. We've gone on a bit of a Strat tangent now. So what have we got going on? I think we're caught up on the chat. So I am going to be doing a demo of the Jupiter FX Catastrophe. Catastropha. I always get the pronunciation of that wrong. I need to learn German. The Catastropha. Chris is going to kill me when he sees me pronounce it wrong. That's going to be on the channel pretty soon. It's a really, really cool. It's like a tube screamer with an octave fuzz. So that's kind of right up my street. I just think it's so interesting what he can do. He's definitely a company or a brand to keep an eye on. If you're interested in pedals with a bit of a twist, you got to check out the Jupiter FX stuff. That thing, where's it gone? This thing is just nuts. If you like Octave Fuzz, this is crazy. This is the sort of pedal that if you play this live, you will get told off by the sound guy, but you will sound good doing it. And I love the fact that it rusts as well. It does cover your hands in rust because the metal naturally rusts, but it's really cool because it's sort of designed in a way that the more you play it and the more you sort of do with it, the more it kind of becomes yours, because it will never age the same way as anyone else's. So your silver machine will always look different to anyone else's silver machine. And actually, on the topic of this, Chris has literally just dropped a mini version of this, because I know we were just talking about the size on this thing. He's literally just announced that he's doing a small version of this, which is in your sort of like, you know, your sort of MXR style sized enclosure. So if you're looking at pedal real estate, there's a big difference, but it's the same circuit. Inside of this, there's actually, I'll actually show you this. There's actually a ton of space because the circuit is actually really simple, but he's just gone for the big enclosure because why not? Chris likes things that are a bit different, and having a fuzz pedal this size is certainly a bit different. And this sounds great into the amps that Chris designs as well. Chris has got an amp which is 200 watts of clean headroom and is insane. So yeah, not a lot of circuit in there for a big enclosure. It's pretty small. There's a couple of dip switches inside actually. You may use any combination of these switches to reduce the high frequency output. So there's sort of like high cut switches inside as well. But yeah, huge pedal, not much inside. But that's Chris's style for you. He's got a very unique visual style. I think he's really nailed his company's branding. So yeah, this is definitely one to check out if you like Octave Fuzz, but clear up some space on your board before you do. Lewis is here, LT Custom Guitars, very late to the party. Hey Lewis, how's it going? Good to see you here. Busy day at the workshop? Me and Lewis are going to be working on a very cool project very soon. Can't say too much about it at this point, but there's going to be a bunch of videos that cover what we're doing. I'm going to see him in a few weeks to film some stuff with him, and he's been filming already. And yeah, it's going to be really fun. We've been brainstorming something for a while, and we're finally at that point where we're able to make it happen. Lewis is a really good custom guitar builder, so go give him some love over on the socials as well. Don't mind me while I'm just putting this thing back together. He builds a lot of really cool one-off guitars. There's a bunch of videos on my channel actually of me using a lot of Lewis's stuff, so go check those out as well. He makes a really cool Les Paul style guitar, which is like half resin, half wood, and it weighs a ton, but it sounds fantastic. But yes, we're going to be doing something very cool very soon, which I'm really excited for. The wheels have been in motion on this project for a couple of weeks now, and yeah, I can't say too much at this point, but there's going to be a bunch of videos coming up very soon where me and Lewis are doing something interesting involving a guitar. So yeah, looking forward to that. So, what else have we got going on over there? Krenar says, cheers, Lewis. Krenar, if you're ever in the UK, you should check out some of Lewis's stuff. I met him through Mike, CGS. He's a friend of Mike's, but if you're ever in the UK, you should definitely check out some of Lewis's stuff. And obviously, you were talking about Strats. Lewis knows a thing or two about Strats. He is left-handed, so don't hold it against him, but he makes a really good Strat. His Strats are really cool. I actually did a video. We shot it in, let me think of my dates here now. We shot it in February at the British Petite Guitar Festival, and I posted the video like maybe March time, early March maybe, of me and Lewis talking over some of his guitars, and his Strat was featured in that video. So go check that one out as well. That's a really cool Strat. But he does all sorts of stuff. It's all really cool custom stuff for a lot cheaper than you'd imagine a custom guitar would cost. So, do we have any final Octave Fuzz requests or questions? Because I think we're sort of coming towards the end point of the stream now. We've been on about an hour and a half, which is sort of where we usually end up. Lewis does love a Strat, but yes, my workshop is always open to people. Yeah, I'm looking forward to going to the workshop because I've never actually been there yet. It'll be a fun few days, I think, coming up and filming some stuff and seeing where that really interesting project takes us. I'm looking forward to that anyway. So yeah, we've done some Octave Fuzz stuff. We've chatted about Strats and all kinds of other cool stuff. It's been fun as always. So, as usual, we're sort of coming towards the end of where we'd usually stream now. Obviously, we've been on here for about an hour and a half, so thank you guys for hanging out. A lot of you guys have been here since the start, so thanks for hanging out and chatting and getting involved with all kinds of fuzz discussion and all sorts of other crazy stuff. The good news is my new graphics card didn't blow up. I'm really pleased with that actually, because I anticipated at the start of the stream that something was going to go bang, because when I tamper with things usually break. So yeah, it didn't blow up on me, which I'm really pleased with. And the good news is, because I now have a new graphics card, it means I can work faster, which means I can actually start catching up on my video backlog. I've been working with this really outdated system for the last like year. When I got the PC built for me, it was the right spec, but since then I've moved from HD videos to 4K, and yeah, it doesn't like it. It doesn't like 4K at all. So now I can be a lot more efficient with my video editing as well, which is nice. On the video editing front, I've been giving you a couple of updates every week. So again, the course, my guitar course, I'm probably about halfway through the edit stage now. So we're getting there. Again, that's the reason why I've not been posting a lot of regular content every week, because I've been so busy editing my guitar course curriculum. It's nearly there. Nearly over the line. I think a couple more weeks and then we can go back to multiple demos a week, hopefully. But yeah, you guys can check that out. It's linked down below in the description. The course is currently live. I launched it last year, but I've decided this year to redo it all in 4K because it just looks better and I just wanted to make it better. The existing course is down below, but I'm going to be doing a big relaunch on that soon. And as always, there's a bunch of links down below in the description you guys can check out. There's a bunch of things you can click. Obviously, if you know anyone who would enjoy these streams or enjoy the videos, feel free to invite them to the channel. That's always helpful. The more people that see these things, the more it helps the channel grow. And obviously, as usual, there's a bunch of different ways you guys can support the channel directly as well. If you enjoy the content and you want to support me, there's a bunch of things down there you can do as well. And obviously, everything helps as always. Everything you guys do to support helps me keep doing this more and more. Dennis, thank you for a great live show. I always learn lots of new things. Really fun learning. I'm glad you do, Dennis. That's really good to know. I enjoy doing these kind of things because it's nice to actually get to speak to people. Because, I mean, I always try and answer every single comment that comes in on the channel anyway. But sometimes it's just nice to be able to answer people straight away. You know, like you can ask me a question, I can answer the question instantly. And I think that's just one of the reasons that these live streams are fun. For me anyway, I really like them. And hopefully the people that are watching them enjoy them as well. But I just like coming on and hanging out with everyone and just getting to interact, you know, instantly, like live. That's really what it's about for me. It's just fun to come on here, talk about all the things we love. And yeah, just get to know everyone that takes the time to hang out and watch the videos. So yeah, thank you guys as always. Next Wednesday, same time, 8 PM UK time. I think we found our time slot now, so 8 PM UK time seems to be the sweet spot. You guys can always let me know if there's anything you'd like me to talk about in these streams. Feel free to throw it in the chat, in the comments. Let me know on socials, wherever you want. Get in touch with me somehow. If there's a topic you think would be interesting to talk about on these streams, let me know and I'll make that happen. as always, yeah, go check out everything down below. Click some things if you want. Do whatever you want. Send me some abuse. Support me in some way. Whatever you guys want. All helps. And yeah, thank you as always, guys. And I will see you next week at the same time. Enjoy the rest of your week. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode on fuzz. Go check out some of the fuzz brands as well. I'm going to throw some of those in the comments of the chat. Not the chat, the actual description. So go into the description. I will link the fuzz pedals that I've talked about today as well. Thank you guys as always, and I'll see you very soon.